Hi, it's Holly and welcome to my November wrap-up. In November I read 11 books, so let's get started. So first I read The Return by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the first book in her Titan series, which is a spin-off of the Covenant series. I read this as an ebook and I gave it 4 stars. Actually, while I was on vacation, I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to read that book. So I downloaded it right when I got home and just like blew through it. I did really enjoy it. I liked Seth in the Covenant series for the most part, so I liked being able to spend more time with him, and I really like Josie, who is the heroine. It's a new adult paranormal series that deals with like gods and things like that. And I definitely think it's going to be a very good series. Then I read Bad Things by R.K. Lily, I think is her name, and I gave this 4 stars. This one I had like a lot of issues with, but it was really addicting, so I really struggled with my rating. Maybe it's more of a 3-star read, I don't know. I found their relationship varied. It's a contemporary romance / new adult. I feel like it's very angsty, and it's a lot of like fighting and making up and making really bad decisions. I actually like Tristan, the male character, for the most part. The girl Danica, I liked her. Sometimes she got on my nerves a little bit. This is the first book in a series. I think it's 3 books long. I will probably read the other ones, but I'm not feeling like the overwhelming urge to like read them right now. The Game Plan by Kristen Callahan, which is the 3rd book in her, what is that series called? Game On, I think. So the first one is the hookup, and then the friend zone, and then the game plan. And this one follows Dex and Fiona. So Dex is a football player and Fiona is a girl, and she is the sister of Ivy, who is the heroine of the 2nd book in this series. And I thought this, I gave 4 stars. It was a really fun, cute romance. It was definitely a little steamy. Fits in with the rest of the series. This one takes place post-college life, which was a little nice to see like the professional football life and everything, and to see what was going on with the other characters from earlier in the series. And it was really nice to get into Dex's head. He was kind of like the silent, supportive, intelligent one earlier, and he is still that character. He's definitely kind of like a beta hero, even though he's a football player, and he's pretty cool. Then I read Harder by Robin York. I read Deeper last month. I gave this 5 stars. Like I said in my October wrap-up, I love this one even more. This is a new adult romance duology about a girl named Caroline and a guy named West. I really think the first book is more about Caroline's journey, and in a lot of ways this one is more about West's journey. I think this book, first of all, is beautiful. It's beautifully written. The story is amazing. There were times I found myself rereading paragraphs just because they were so well written. And I think there are so many important messages in these series, in the series as a whole, but in this book especially, this idea of being honest with yourself about what you want out of life and being honest with everyone else. And I wrote in my written review that this is the kind of book I would give to my kids, you know, like if I have kids, and be like, read this and be like these characters in the end. And then I needed a little bit of like a mental break. I needed to get off the angsty read. So I picked up Nuts by Alice Clayton, which I knew I was going to be like, this is exactly what I needed, and it didn't let me down. This also gave me 5 stars. I gave 5 stars. It's funny. It's an Alice Clayton novel. It's if you like her other stuff, I think you would like this one. This is about a girl named Roxy, right? Is that her name? Yes. And she is a private chef, and then something happens and she loses like all of her clients in LA, and her mom has to go away. And her mom runs a diner, so Roxy agrees to come home to like the Hudson Valley area of New York and run the diner. And she wants nothing to do with small town life and nothing to do with her mom's diner, but she meets Leo Maxwell, who's a farmer in the area, and she kind of starts to look at small town life and the diner and herself and her mom and all of these people she grew up around differently. It definitely has a ton of humor and like situational comedy and some sexy times, but it did not let me down. I thought it was great. And then I read Falling in Bed with the Duke by Lorraine Heath, which is the first book in her Hellions of Havisham, I think is what it's called, series. And so this follows a guy, a duke, obviously, who would have thunk it, named Ash and Minerva Dodger. Finally, in the previous series, I think I said in my October wrap up that I love like big families and like family series. Now Lorraine Heath just does it over many series. So you had a series where you got to know Minerva's dad and like his friends, and then there was the series before this which was about the first set of kids in that, like, of those people. And now Minerva, who is Dodger's daughter obviously, finally has her own story. This is a pretty traditional trope in historical romance. Minerva is getting older. I think she isn't going to get married, so she just wants to like go out and have what she'll never have, and so she goes to the secret club to have sex with some strange guy, you know, as you do. And they end up kind of having a connection, and then she knows who he is, and it's Ash, the Duke, and then he ends up wanting to pursue her, but then he kind of has to like court her even though they've already like had sex. And I kind of like that trope. I'm not 100% on board with it, but in general it's a good one for me. I really like Minerva. I really like Ash. I like this world. I like spending time in it. And then I got Pucked by Helena Hunting, which is like a contemporary romance hockey book, and I give this 2.5 stars. I really didn't like this. I liked the guy. I think his name was Alex. I really liked him. I thought he was very sweet. I thought he was kind. But the heroine, whose name just like escapes me, really bothered me. I thought she was really immature. I didn't like the way she handled situations. And then the writing for me just didn't work. Like, it was definitely on the crude side, but in general that doesn't bother me. So it wasn't that, but there was just something about the writing that just felt like unedited, I guess. Like, I hate to say that because, like, even though it's self-published, I'm sure Helena Hunting put like time and effort into this, but that's the only way I can describe it. I may read the second book in the series just because the characters that is about interest me, but it's not something I'm going to do right away, and I definitely don't want to spend a lot of money on it. Then I reread Make It Count by Megan Erickson, which I gave 4 stars just like last time. I just wanted like a good new adult I knew wouldn't let me down. And I read this last year, I think it was, and it's about a girl who is struggling in school and kind of puts on this like mask so people don't realize, and really she has dyslexia and doesn't know it, and she ends up in a relationship with a very intelligent guy, and she has like deal with that. I think it's a really great new adult. I like this series in general. So it was nice, quick read, and exactly what I needed to get me like to recover from Pucked. Then I read Demon Glass by Rachel Hawkins, which is the second book in the Hex Hall series. I gave this 4.5 stars. I liked it a little bit less than Hex Hall, although honestly I feel like I just wasn't prepared for some of like the tonal shifts. I wasn't expecting things to get as serious as they did, as fast as they did, and I wanted some more of that like humor I was really used to from the first book from Sophie. So I think going into the third book I'll definitely be more in that mindset. But in this one we travel to London and or England really, and I'm glad we did. We got to meet more people. You start to see the council, which is part of like this world and controls like the paranormal aspect of things, and just more information was passed out. Not everything was resolved. It got some theories and it definitely ended on a cliffhanger, and I hope to be reading the next one next month. And then I read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black, which was on my fall TBR, and this book took me like a week to read. I gave it 2 stars. I just like stopped caring. I had like 100 pages left and I was like, should I just DNF it? And I was like, no, you have come this far, finish it. I just really didn't care about any of the characters. There's one character named Gavriel, I think his name is. He's a vampire. He's really the only one I find interesting or care about. I don't necessarily dislike any of the characters. Like, the main character doesn't bother me, but I, like, whenever she was in danger, I didn't care. You know what I mean? And you should care about these things. And I felt like the world had a lot of potential. Like, I really believe that Holly Black knows so much about this world, and I just wish we could have known more about it. I think that's the problem with a standalone sometimes is, like, for this kind of genre, so much to build a world like this, but you only have so long to explore it. And I think that was kind of a disadvantage here. I also felt like there really wasn't much of, like, a plot per se. Like, I don't even feel like it was a character study on the main character. Like, that almost would have been okay, but we just kept, like, jumping around and doing different things and going different places. But it didn't seem like there was a plot. I guess I could, like, pick something else out as, like, the climax, but I'm not really sure what the main conflict was, or if it is just, like, man versus self, human nature thing. I don't think that that was explored enough. I don't know. So this one was definitely a disappointment. Oh, and then really quick, I have been slowly rereading Persuasion. I've been reading about a chapter a night. It's kind of nice. It's like what I do right before I go to bed. It kind of just, like, calms me down because it's not, like, super tense or action-packed reading. It's just beautiful, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through at this point, and that's one of my books on my fall TBR as well. So that is always good. So that is it for my November wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!